I was 19 when I moved into my first off-campus apartment, desperate to escape my suffocating dorm life. As a psychology major specializing in abnormal behavior, I thought I understood the human mind's capacity for self-deception. I was wrong. The Blackwood Arms wasn't much to look at. A crumbling brick building from the 1940s with hallways that reeked of mildew and decades of cigarette smoke. But at $400 a month, it was all my part-time barista salary could afford. Mrs. Chen, the elderly landlord, seemed nervous when she handed me the keys. Her weathered hands trembled slightly as she pointed to my unit, 4B, then quickly looked away from the door directly across the hall. "That one's been empty for 8 months," she said, her accent thick with worry. "Previous tenant. Left suddenly. No forwarding address." I should have asked more questions. Instead, I was too excited about my newfound independence to care about her obvious discomfort. In my abnormal psych classes, we'd studied how people project anxiety onto neutral situations. I assumed that's all this was. The first week was blissful. I decorated my tiny space with thrift store furniture and string lights, feeling like a real adult for the first time. The building's thin walls meant I could hear everything. Mrs. Patterson upstairs arguing with her cats, old Mr. Kowalski's persistent cough echoing from below. But apartment 4A across from me remained silent as a tomb. That changed on a Tuesday night. I was cramming for my abnormal psychology midterm when I heard it. A soft, scraping sound, like furniture being dragged across wooden floors. I paused, listening. The sound came again, definitely from 4A. I checked the time. 2:17 a.m. Auditory hallucinations from stress, I diagnosed myself, though it seemed odd that my subconscious would create such specific sounds. Must be maintenance, I reasoned more practically. The next morning, I casually mentioned it to Mrs. Chen when she collected rent. Her face went pale. "Impossible," she whispered. "I have only key. No one goes in there." "Maybe the pipes," I suggested, but she was already shaking her head. "You hear nothing from there. Nothing, you understand?" Her intensity unnerved me. That apartment. Bad things happened. Before I could ask what she meant, she hurried away, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night, the sounds returned. This time, I heard distinct footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing back and forth. I pressed my ear to the shared wall and felt my blood turn to ice. The footsteps stopped directly on the other side, as if someone knew I was listening. My psychology training kicked in. Pareidolia, I told myself, the brain's tendency to find patterns in random stimuli. But even as I rationalized, my hands shook. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Why are you awake?" My hands shook as I stared at the screen. I'd only given my number to my boss, my parents, and my study group. Another message appeared. "I can see your light under the door." I rushed to my peephole, heart hammering. The hallway was empty, both apartment doors closed. But there, a thin line of light seeping from under 4A's door, even though it was supposed to be vacant. Sleep became impossible. I researched the building online, digging through local newspaper archives. What I found made my stomach drop. Blackwood Arms tragedy. Local student found dead. The article was from 8 months ago. Emma Rodriguez, 20, had been discovered in apartment 4A after neighbors complained about a smell. The cause of death was listed as undetermined, but the article mentioned she'd been behaving erratically in her final weeks, claiming someone was watching her, sending her messages, knocking on her door at night. The parallels were impossible to ignore. My academic mind tried to find rational explanations, coincidence, suggestion, psychosomatic responses. But the evidence was mounting. I tried calling the number that had texted me, but it went straight to a disconnected message. When I ran the number through a reverse lookup, it came back to Emma Rodriguez. That night, I didn't turn off my lights. Around 3 a.m., My door handle began to turn, slowly, testing the lock. I grabbed the baseball bat I'd bought after reading Emma's story, my palms slick with sweat. The handle stopped moving, followed by 3 deliberate knocks from across the hall. Through the peephole, I watched 4A's door crack open. Nothing emerged, but I could hear breathing, ragged, labored, wrong somehow. My phone lit up. Don't look away. I stumbled backward, phone clattering to the floor. When I found the courage to look again, the hallway was empty, but a piece of paper had been slipped under my door. The handwriting was jagged, desperate. Get out before it's too late. She's still here. She won't let you leave. E. Emma. Emma Rodriguez was trying to warn me. I called in sick to work and spent the day at the library, researching the building's history. The Blackwood Arms had a pattern. Every few years, a young woman living in 4B would die under mysterious circumstances. Always ruled undetermined. Always preceded by complaints of harassment, mysterious messages, sounds from the empty apartment across the hall. The first was in 1987. Margaret Ellis, 19. Then Sarah Kim in 1993. Jessica Murphy in 2001. Vanessa Torres in 2009. Each story was eerily similar. A college student, living alone, tormented by an unseen presence until they either fled or didn't. But Emma was different. Emma had lived in 4A, not 4B. She'd broken the pattern somehow, and now she was trapped, trying to warn others. My psychology training helped me piece together the pattern. Margaret Ellis had exhibited signs of severe psychological disturbance before her death. Paranoid delusions, violent outbursts, self-harm. When spirits are created by intense emotional trauma, they often maintain the same behavioral patterns in death. Margaret was still hunting, still feeding on fear and isolation. That evening, I confronted Mrs. Chen. She broke down, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. I should have torn down that building years ago, she sobbed. But I need the money for my grandson's medical bills. I thought if I left 4A empty, maybe it would stop. But Emma, poor Emma tried to help. Now she's part of it. Part of what? I demanded. The first one. Margaret. She was troubled. Very troubled. Did things to herself, to others. When she died in 4B, her spirit, it was angry, hungry. It feeds on fear, on loneliness. Makes young women like her, then takes them. Mrs. Chen grabbed my hands. Emma fought back, tried to protect the next girl, but it trapped her too. Now there are 2 of them, Margaret, who hunts, and Emma, who warns. Margaret can only fully manifest in 4A now, but her influence spreads through the building. Emma, she's bound here, using what little power she has to save others. I understood now. In paranormal psychology theory, protective spirits often sacrifice their ability to move on in order to guard others. Emma had become a psychic barrier, containing Margaret's influence but unable to break free herself. That night, I packed everything I could carry, but when I tried to leave, my door wouldn't open. The deadbolt turned, but the door remained sealed, as if welded shut. My phone showed no signal. Margaret's influence was strongest at night. She could manipulate physical reality within the building's confines. At exactly 3 a.m., the sounds began. Footsteps in 4A, but heavier now, more aggressive. My door handle rattled violently. Through the wall, I heard Emma's voice, distorted, desperate. She knows you're trying to leave. She won't let you. The lights in my apartment began to flicker. In the strobing darkness, I saw her, a shadowy figure standing at my window, though I was on the 4th floor. Margaret Ellis, her face a mask of rage and hunger, exactly as I'd imagined from the police reports describing her deteriorating mental state. My phone buzzed one final time. You're mine now. But then Emma appeared beside me, translucent and glowing faintly. The fire alarm, she whispered urgently. Pull it. The building sprinkler system will break her hold. Running water disrupts negative spiritual energy. I lunged for the alarm, yanking it down. Sirens wailed as water cascaded from the ceiling. Margaret's scream of fury echoed through the building as her form dissolved. Water had always been considered a purifying element in spiritual practices. It made sense that it would weaken her manifestation. Emma smiled sadly before fading away. I can rest now. But you have to finish it. She'll return when the building dries. There's gasoline in the maintenance room. Mrs. Chen, she's been planning this for months. The fire department found me in the hallway, soaking wet and babbling about sprinklers malfunctioning. I told them about a gas leak, anything to get them to evacuate the building. Later that night, after the firefighters left, Mrs. Chen appeared in the lobby with a gasoline can. She looked at me with weary eyes. "Emma told you," she said simply. "My grandson. He sees things too. I know what this place does to people. I've been waiting for someone strong enough to help me end it." Together, we soaked the building's foundation and old wooden framework. Mrs. Chen had already moved out her few belongings and arranged for the other tenants to stay with relatives. The insurance investigator would find faulty electrical wiring and old building materials. A tragic but unsurprising accident. 2 weeks later, the Blackwood Arms burned to the ground. Mrs. Chen collected the insurance money, paid her grandson's medical bills, and moved back to Taiwan. She left me half the settlement, enough to finish school without working 3 jobs. I never told anyone the real story, though I wrote about it extensively in my senior thesis on environmental psychology and paranormal experiences. My professors thought it was brilliant theoretical work on how trauma can psychologically haunt locations. But sometimes on quiet nights, I swear I can still hear Emma's voice on the wind. Thank you. The cycle was broken. The hungry ghost of Margaret Ellis was gone. And somewhere, Emma Rodriguez was finally at peace. I learned that some places hold on to pain, feeding on it, growing stronger. But I also learned that love, even the love of a stranger trying to save you, can be more powerful than the deepest evil. My psychology training had taught me about the mind's capacity for both destruction and healing. Now I understood it applied to spirits as well. The lot where the Blackwood Arms once stood remained empty for 2 years. Then a small coffee shop was built there, bright, airy, filled with laughter and warmth. I stop by sometimes, just to make sure the energy feels clean. The barista always smiles at me like we're old friends, though I've never seen her before. Some doors should never be opened. Some apartments should stay empty. And sometimes, the dead are the only ones brave enough to save the living. But with the right knowledge, the living can save them in return.